Have you been dreaming about owning a Porsche but don't want to lose a fortune to depreciation? Don't worry, I will guide you through the cars you should steer clear of if you care about resale values, and those that you should definitely put on your shortlist. The gap between these two categories is substantial. Some cars lost up to 30%, while others lost almost nothing. As always, we'll take a data-driven approach, starting with an overview of the Porsche market, before delving into specific models that witness the highest and lowest depreciation rates. Finally, we'll examine the individual trends for selected cars. Now, before we dive into the Porsche market, I would like to mention that I noticed many of you requested an analysis for the Lamborghini market. I took a break from these analyses for a while, as they didn't seem to be as popular. But given the recent requests, I'll be incorporating a few of them into my content next year. Thanks all for your suggestions, let's keep them coming. But now, back to the Porsche market. Here we have the US year-over-year price changes for Porsche models that are covered on my channel. And this includes almost all models, except for the SUVs and those with extremely low market supply. Now the horizontal axis illustrates the percentage change in price compared to the previous year, while the vertical axis shows the number of cars affected by this change. The average decrease over the past year was 7%. With most cars experiencing a depreciation between 3 and 10%. The distribution aligns well with expectations given the recent market conditions, showing that while most cars depreciated, some suffered more significant losses. The tail at this end extends to over 25%. On the other extreme, only a few cars saw a slight increase in prices. Now, let's identify which cars fall outside this normal range and experienced higher or lower depreciation than most other models. Let's start with the cars that fall on the left hand side, so the ones that lost more than typical. In this graph, we have the top 20% that experienced the most significant losses last year. The different models are listed at the bottom, with abbreviations like Panamera and facelift used to keep labels concise. Now the black lines for each number represent the uncertainty in the results, indicating the 95% confidence interval. Not surprisingly, this group is dominated by Taycans and Panameras, with Taycans ultimately taking the lead. From left to right, we see the Taycan S, Turbo and Turbo S, followed by a Panamera S from the 970 generation and another Taycan. Now a few weeks ago I provided you with a comprehensive market analysis for the Taycan, in which I also compared the price development to the one in the Panamera market. The analysis revealed a significant crash in Taycan prices from their market peak, a trend not unique to Taycans, but common among many EVs. So let's do a quick recap of the latest development in the Taycan prices. Displayed here are the base and S prices broken down by model year, and the data speaks for itself. Values are plummeting. Compared to the market peak, base models are down by an average of 28%, or $29,700, and S's by 35% or $46,700. The slope of these lines is remarkable, showing minimal flattening. Rates have hardly changed since November 2022, with base models down by 27% and S's by 30%. These are substantial losses. Switching to the aggregate trends in the GTS and Turbo market, the situation isn't much better. Turbo S's, for example, are down by an average of 33% compared to May 2022. Looking at last year, the Turbo is down by 28.7% and the Turbo S by 27%. The GTS market has a lower drop of 17%, but this is explained by the fact that GTS's are driven much less than the Turbos. But what about Panameras? Also they prominently featured in the top 20% models that experienced the most significant losses. Well, they fared slightly better than the Taycans. In this comparison between Taycans and Panameras by model year and type, we can observe that Panameras lost significantly less. Taycan models and types displayed here lost an average of 28%, whereas Panameras lost only 16%. It's of course still a high number, but 12 percentage points less than the Taycans. For instance, a Taycan S from 2021 lost 31% last year, while a 2021 Panamera S lost only 17%. Let's return now to our market overview. We've seen that Taycans, followed by Panameras, experienced the most significant average losses. And this isn't surprising. But what about the cars that lost the least? Let's explore. There's more variety on the right hand side of the distribution. Displayed over here are the top 20% of cars that experience the least depreciation, and in some cases, values even increase slightly. Now examining the models, we see that the top 5 consist entirely out of Boxsters or Caymans. Surprising, right? Note that there's more uncertainty in the estimates in this chart due to the smaller market size, so don't put too much emphasis on the exact numbers. Starting on the right, we can notice that 981 and 718 GT4s performed exceptionally well last year. Analyzing the price trends for these models reveals a lower correlation to the market than for other segments, with a run up until 2022, a drop, and a unique recovery in the beginning of 2023. Most other cars display a decline during this period. Now compared to last year, 981s are up by approximately 4% and 718s by approximately 2%. And it's worth noting that the last increase in the 981 market is due to a change in market composition, so the 4% is the corrected number. Returning again back to the overview graph, we can see that also 718 Spyders performed exceptionally well. A closer look at the price trend reveals similarities to the GT4 trends, with prices declining after the summer of 2022 in line with the rest of the market, but recovering in the beginning of 2023. This is unique to this segment. The year-over-year price decrease is approximately 1.7%. Not surprisingly, the Spyders and many GT4s have been selling rapidly, with only 20% of the cars listed for sale remaining unsold after 3 months, supporting strong prices. Now moving further to the left on our overview graph, we encounter a few 991s and 992 Carreras. The 992 4S, GTS, base models and 991.2Ts are all holding up well. Looking at the 992 4S for instance, we can see that these scores are driven by the flattening in the last 6 months. Prices mostly followed the market trend up until January 2023, but have been fairly stable since then. The year-over-year change, therefore, arrives at plus 0.8%. This increase is small, and we cannot definitely say that prices increased. It's not statistically confirmed. Yet, it shows that prices remained flat, which is not a bad result in the current market. I covered the Carrera market a few weeks ago, so I recommend to check out that video if you want to know more. Returning once again to the overview graph, we can see that 991.2 GT3 RSs just made it to the list, while the .1s just fell off it, but still performed well. Looking at the prices, we observed the familiar pattern. A dip in the second half of 2022, followed by a relatively stable pattern in 2023. .2s are down by approximately 1.6%, and for .1s this is 2.8%. Now many of the cars we discussed are relatively expensive, but you don't need to empty your complete wallet to buy a Porsche with a relatively low depreciation rate. Going back to the chart, we can see that a few 986 Boxsters, 987 Caymans and 996 911s also made it to the list. Let's inspect those price trends. Starting with the 986.2 Boxster S, we can see that there's a lot of price uncertainty in the market. Focus on the high level trend. Many fluctuations are the result of changes in the market composition. Correcting for these, the year-over-year price change was 2.8%, meaning we would end up in the middle of this confidence interval. The same applies to the Cayman 987.1 base market. There have been fluctuations since last year, but the increase and decrease are mainly caused by changes in the market composition. Correcting for these, we're looking at a price increase of approximately 2.5 and 2.8%. A quick look at the 996.1 911 reveals that prices have been extremely stable. Prices hardly changed since November 2011. Back then, the average price for a 996.1 was $29,850 and now it is $28,500. Compared to last year, we're looking at a decrease between 0.4 and 1.4%, a relatively low number. Alright, we just explored the current depreciation rates in the Porsche market and we found that on average, most models are losing approximately 7% per year. But there are significant differences. Taycans are depreciating the quickest, followed by Panameras. On the other hand, we saw that the number of cars for which prices increased is only small. GT4s and older Boxsters and Caymans did well, but also some 992s lost very little thanks to recent price stabilizations. If we look at a high-level overview that shows the changes for the different model types, it becomes even clearer that the 7% drop is heavily influenced by the Panameras and the Taycans. We can see that out of all model types, 911s performed really well, that Boxsters lost slightly more, but that especially the Caymans are holding their ground. Now it's of course crucial to place these numbers in context. Car prices surged during the pandemic, peaked mid-2022 and then decreased at above average rates. Only a handful of markets remained stable after peaking. In the beginning of the summer of 2023, we saw that depreciation rates in some markets started to decrease to more normal values. Looking at last year's price changes for almost all cars that are featured on my channel, the average price decrease was 7.2%. This aligns exactly with the 7% we observed in the Porsche market. Excluding the Porsche market, we would arrive at 7.3%. So also there, no change. We can also see that there aren't many cars for which prices increased. Let's wrap up and conclude. 2023 was an extremely interesting year for the Porsche market. After most cars experienced a decline in price during the second half of 2022, 2023 added a bit of flavor and increased the variety in the trends. And this has important implications for you as a Porsche owner or buyer. If you care about values and want a Porsche, it makes sense to steer away from Taycans and to a lesser extent also from Panameras. On the other hand, we observed that especially GT4s, GT3 RSs, older 911s, Caymans, Boxsters and some 992s are holding up well. Now I believe that the newer cars in this list, so especially the 992s, still have a lot of downward price risk. The fact that prices stabilized during the last 6 to 9 months doesn't guarantee that this level will be maintained. Therefore, I would personally seek out the cars from the list that are a few years old. And with that we arrived at the end of this video. Now if you enjoy this data-driven way of analyzing car prices but would like to see an analysis for a different car, head over to my channel. Over there you'll find data-driven market analysis for a large variety of cars. Can't find the car you're looking for? Let me know the name of the car by commenting it down below in the comments section. Once there are enough requests for a certain car, I'll make a video about it. As always, thank you for watching and I hope to see you next week for a new video.